Hello and welcome to another episode of Northside Now. This is the podcast where we take you on a tour through all of the ministries and the latest happenings around Northside Church to keep you better connected with your church family. My name is Patrick, and with me as always are my co-hosts, Glenn Miller and Kevin Bryant.
What's up?
What's going on, guys?
Hey, I'm doing well. You sound like you're a little bit froggy today.
I've been a little bit froggy for the last week.
Oh, really?
Weather change, it's my favorite.
Yes.
Well, and that's the thing is there's a lot of that going around.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. It actually is my favorite. I'm so glad that it's starting to get cooler. This is like my time of the year.
Yeah. I like it too.
But I got to get my sinuses adjusted to it.
Yeah. Good old sinuses, the West Tennessee crud.
Oh, yeah. It happens every year.
I wish the cocktail shot was just like over the counter.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have to make an appointment or anything, just because you know you need it, right?
Yeah.
You know, when it's like a cocktail shot will fix this.
In the future, who knows when in the future, but if you're registered and you got chips in you or whatever, all you just go through a drive-through.
Yeah.
Get a shot.
I'll order a cocktail shot
Yep.
and
Dink,
a Route 44.
Yeah, right. You don't even have to drink it. It just comes into you. That wouldn't be as much fun, though.
No.
It's like an actual cocktail.
Yeah.
That reminded me of I just watched the documentary called The Inventor about Elizabeth Holmes.
Really?
She did the Edison blood thing. It was the whole scandal that she got arrested for.
I don't know about this story. I'm embarrassed to say.
I think I remember something about
her company was called
name.
Theranos, and
what.
she was like in Silicon Valley. She wanted to be like the next Steve Jobs.
Oh,
and
okay.
She basically modeled her career off of Edison because it was basically a fake it till you make it. And she had created this machine that she called the Edison that she said you could take a couple of drops of blood, put it in this machine, and it would run over like 250 blood tests, and it would tell you all the different things that were wrong with you. And her goal was to get one in everybody's home. So everybody would have one in their own home. So if you start to feel bad, you just prick your finger and then you put it in this machine and it would tell you what was wrong with you.
Okay, this is jogging my memory a little bit now. Was it good?
The documentary was very interesting. It didn't really have a satisfying conclusion because I don't think she's gone to trial yet. But it was very informative. Because basically she just ignored everybody that said, hey, this isn't going to work. And she just believed so hard that it was going to work that she ignored any of the red flags. She had hundreds of millions of dollars in investments, but her investors would come and they would do a demonstration of the machine and they would take some of the blood, a couple of drops of blood, and put it in this machine. And then she'd say, hey, let's go check out this lab while the machine works. And so they'd leave the room and a technician would run in, grab the blood sample out of this, run the tests on some standard, machines that everybody uses, and then bring it back and stick it back in there. So then when they'd come back in from touring the lab, they'd say, oh, look, the results are done. And then they'd read the results, but they weren't actually run on the machine.
Wow.
And so all these people believed that it worked and that it was working, and it was all just sort of a sleight of hand trick. It just made me think because her goal was to get one of these things in everybody's home.
And there was something about a patch or something that you could wear for something. I can't remember, but yeah, interesting. Very interesting.
I've been on a bit of a documentary kick.
You have been on a documentary kick lately.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I need to watch a few.
I'm halfway through the Heaven's Gate documentary, the Cult of Cults.
That's the one out in California.
Yeah, that's the one where they thought they were aliens and were going to return to get to heaven by the alien abductions. I don't remember.
And there's something about that. One of the only things I remember about it, because when I was young, is something about bunk beds.
Yeah.
Bunk beds were an important piece of that thing for some reason. I don't remember.
If you slept in a bunk bed, you were an alien?
Well, it was that's the way they housed them.
That's the way
and maybe that's the way
listener discretion advised. It was one of those where there was a mass suicide.
Yeah.
That they were going to be taken up to the mothership or whatever. And they found them all in bunk beds and they were wearing uniforms. And it's interesting. But again, I'm only halfway through that one.
I remember that from back in the day. Hey, can we send a shout out? These people don't know us and they probably don't listen to the podcast, but a major shout out to Brady Lowry and Kendall Cummings. Have y'all heard about these two dudes?
I have not, no.
These guys were looking for antler sheds in Wyoming. when they came upon a bear, a grizzly bear, and the grizzly bear attacked one of them. And then the other guy, they're both college wrestlers, and the other guy attacked the bear, like ran to help his friend.
Did he put the bear in a chokehold?
Yeah, well, he tackled him. He tackled it, and then the bear turned and started messing him up. But they fought off the bear. I don't think they killed it or anything, but they got it where it decided. But it messed them up bad.
Yeah.
Then they walked 4 miles back to their vehicle where they got picked up, and people called for a helicopter to come pick them up and everything. And that was just recently, like within the last couple of weeks. So, dude, if your teammate buddy is getting mauled by a grizzly bear, you think you would run directly into it, just tackle that dude? And
I don't know. I've never been in that situation before.
well, I mean, that's friendship right there, brother.
Yeah, that's a connection for sure.
Because to me, the joke's always been, I don't have to worry about a bear attacking me or chasing me down. I just got to outrun you, right? That's always been the joke. And I kind of feel like that might be reality. But this dude attacked the bear that was attacking his friend.
All right.
So shout out, guys. Way to go.
Yeah.
And
way to be able to walk 4 miles after that, too.
yeah,
really.
You guys can't see, but these guys, they did.
Some pretty graphic images.
They got messed up. I guess it was like a real Revenant.
Yeah.
The movie. But shout out to you two dudes. There they are in the hospital. We're looking at on the computer a couple of pictures, but way to go for friends out there.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the question is, I guess, would you...
Do I have a friend that would fight off a grizzly bear for me?
Would you attack a bear for your friend?
I mean, maybe a black bear. They're smaller, right?
They are. And I think,
they're still a bear.
They're still a bear, but I think they're less vicious in their personalities, I think, aren't they? I don't know. I guess a bear is a bear. I don't know.
Yeah.
Some friendship there. Well, it's kind of like some of what some of these kids recently did up here at the church for some trunk or treat.
They fight some bears for some candy.
I think they were willing to fight anybody for that candy. Good time.
Did we see anybody dressed up like a bear?
I can't remember seeing anybody dressed up like.
I don't know, but I think I saw Bigfoot, Sasquatch.
You might need to have an FBI surveillance team stationed with you.
You see Bigfoot more than anyone.
You were being followed by the Bigfoot.
I think so.
You got.
I need a protection team.
You do. You need to.
Black SUVs and the full contingent there.
Yeah.
There are Bigfoot in West Tennessee now. Kevin drug them over here.
I don't know. They didn't fit in my car, so I don't know how they made it. But
did you have some beef jerky in your car? They probably just followed.
I did have some Slim Jims, but I don't know.
I think they prefer the Jack Links.
Yeah.
Well, last year we talked about all the different Halloween-y things and stuff during October, and I kind of missed some of that this year.
I'm a little disappointed to a degree that we didn't revive the para Northside activity, but maybe next year.
But yeah, I think I don't know. Bigfoot is he's one of the fun ones.
Yeah.
So
a cryptid, right?
Cryptid. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
See, I did learn something.
Yeah.
Cryptozoology. It's the study of cryptids like Loch Ness Monster,
Nessie,
Mothman,
the swamp
ape.
Swamp ape. Thank you.
Yeah. What did they call them? Walkers?
Skunk ape. Yeah.
Walkers or something?
Skinwalkers.
Skinwalkers. Is that one?
That's a thing.
Is that a cryptid thing too?
That's more of they're like Native American shapeshifters.
Okay, yeah. I remember that.
So if you don't know what we're talking about, go back to last year's episodes in October.
Yeah.
And you can learn all about these things.
In fact, if you don't know anything we're talking about, you need to go back and listen to the other 90-something episodes of Northside now.
Hit the back catalog.
Because we are very, very close to 100. Woo, 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 woo.
Yeah. Creeping on up.
And that's pretty cool. That is one of the large monster rocks in the bucket of a podcast.
Yeah. They say most people don't even start listening to a podcast until it's got at least 100 episodes.
100.
There we go.
Because then, they've worked out, they've gotten some practice under their belt, some experience,
And thank y'all, because the last couple of episodes that we've done, our last few, y'all been blowing up our Instagram.
Yeah.
We've had tons of likes lately, so that means the more people are listening.
Yeah,
that's right.
We appreciate that.
So don't be missing out. You never know when you might hear about a Bigfoot or whatever. I think we've talked about it all.
We've talked about a lot of different things. I've learned a ton that I didn't know prior about people in our church, but also professions and topics and just can't wait for what's next.
Yeah. And we were going to have a really good episode today, but our guest ended up getting sick and couldn't be with us. And so we will reschedule him to come in and talk about card trading and some things like that, because it's really interesting, and he's been around it for a long time. So we'll talk about some of that. And some
Old Rona strikes again.
Yeah. So we'll have him in soon and talk about that. I know we said that was coming, but today we wanted to make everyone aware about All Saints Day. And we are celebrating All Saints Day this coming week.
Yep, this Sunday, right? November the 6th.
November the 6th. So what's the tradition at Northside when it comes to All Saints Day?
Yeah, it's like, well, hold on. We're not Catholic. Why are we talking about saints, Glenn?
And we're not in New Orleans.
We're not in New Orleans either.
And we're not talking about football right now.
Yeah.
We're not talking about those saints. Who dat? We're not talking about who dim saints.
Yeah.
But All Saints Day is a day in which we remember, at least the tradition in our church is to remember all of those people who have died. It's not even members, it's just even our church life in the last year from this time the year before.
Yeah.
Part of the service is we ring a bell. There's bells that ring.
Yeah.
And do we do like when the saints go marching in on that day?
Yeah. Yeah, we often do that. At least we have in the past.
And we do the bells and they ring.
They chime the names.
Yeah.
Chime the names of them. So we're going to read the names today. And we're going to talk a little bit more about All Saints here in a little bit, but I thought it would be a good way to just remember these folks. This is something we've never done on the podcast, so this is a new thing.
Right.
But it is an honor to lift these folks up. And as we lift them up, if y'all know them and have any thoughts about them, let's share those. And the first one we're going to lift up today is Miss Mary Newman, who died this past year. And I know Miss Mary well because we rented from her for ever and a day.
Yeah.
I think she said that we rented from her longer than anybody else had ever rented from her. So
yeah, so she had property. She was a teacher in our midst. She taught children for a very long time.
She taught my Sunday school when I was a wee lad.
Yep.
So,
and she also, we had some Wednesday night activities geared kind of around younger kids and Bible learning and those kinds of things. I remember she did that.
And I always loved Miss Mary. I mean, even after she quote unquote retired, she went and worked with kids over at USJ in the preschool.
Yeah.
And she loved kids. She loved to be around people and have a good time. She was spunky, and always loved Miss Mary. And so, to all of her family, we definitely pray with y'all as you've walked through those days of grief and continue to do so. But Miss Mary was a blessing to our church, like all of these folks are. Another one, Mr. Burris Nichols. You know, Celeste was good friends, or is good friends with Hannah Russell. Of course, all of their grandkids came through the youth group and everything. But Mr. Burris he was the real deal.
yeah, he was a character.
He's a coach. Did y'all know that?
Yeah, and a good basketball player, I think.
Yeah.
Right? Back in the day.
Was he still coaching when you went to Northside, didn't you, Kevin?
No, I went to...
Oh, you went to Old Hickory or whatever.
Yeah, it was EDS at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then USJ was on the tail end there. Yeah, he was... and I didn't even realize all this about him until his service, where I read all the materials out in the front. But yeah, a good athlete.
Yeah,
for sure.
Miss Sarah Seeley. And I know Miss Sarah because she was the grandmother to several kids that went through the youth group.
Right.
You know, Caitlin and Carly and
namesake of one of them.
We hung out with the Joneses quite a bit when we were younger because we were some of the only homeschooled families at the same time. So.
And the Seeleys. And so definitely remember them. Mr. Charles Morse. Remember him. Gary worked here at the church for a long time, his son. So. And Mr. Charles Love Jr. had passed away this past year. And Miss Helen Bryant. I think she was our oldest member.
I think so. I think I looked that up at one point.
Yeah, she was just shy of her 100th birthday.
Wow.
When she died this year. And man, now Miss Helen was a hoot and a half. I hadn't been here really long, and she called me one day at the church office. Glenn, I don't want to see those boys wearing those hats in the church sanctuary area again. And I said,
was she talking about me?
She might have been.
She might have been.
And she said, I need you to fix that. And I said, yes, ma'am, I will take care of it. And so the next time we were around, I went up to some of the guys and said, we need to take our hats while we're off in the sanctuary and honor that, and and had a good conversation with them. But she was going to make sure that didn't happen again. And so I love that. She was really, really a sweet lady and never had to wonder what was on her mind. So loved her. And her daughter, Robin, was on a recent podcast talking about her trip to Israel.
Right.
So, Miss Diane Trevathan, you know Miss Diane well. You grew up with her.
Knew her well, yeah.
So,
related to the Michael family.
yeah, Miss Dee Dee's mom. So, Miss Kay Long passed away this past year, along with Louise Ryder, and want to remember them. Miss Pam Beach, and we all know Miss Pam well, and she was a big supporter. Actually, I think she listened to the podcast some.
Yeah.
And would say things about our podcast occasionally. Mr. Mike Mingledorf, and he recently died, and we recently had his celebration of life service here at the church, and so we remember. I remember Mike when they were at the service would play the drums on Wednesday nights forever.
Yeah.
Whenever the Wednesday night praise service, and during his service, I could just see him up there.
Yeah.
Sitting in his drum kit.
I've got a lot of personal history with Mike because Mike played drums for my dad's band back in the day, the Ramblers.
I did not know that.
He played drums for the Ramblers for a little while. And honestly, I probably wouldn't be doing this job without him because when I was 16, he called me and said, "Hey, do you want a job at PM Music?" I was like, "Sure." So I started working for him over at PM Music, and I worked there for 7 years with him. And that's where I sort of got into this whole world of audio production and stuff. So I kind of owe him a bit of a debt of gratitude.
Well, he and his group had a lot of time put in on the sound system. He used to run that, of course, but then company helped put in some of the equipment a lot of the equipment.
Yeah, pretty much all of our audio visual equipment right now was installed by him and his company.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Mike's a good dude. And then Louise Gearin. She was Ginger Vager's mom. So Louise Gearin, remember them. So these are the folks that died from our church family this past year, and we want to remember every one of them and their families. And so they definitely are a part of the great cloud of witnesses that are watching over us and with us now. That's what we do during All Saints Sunday here. But All Saints has a long history of being celebrated as a holy holiday, as a holy day, and it goes back to Catholic roots. And we were talking a little bit a while ago, Patrick and Kevin and I were about the saints, in the United Methodist Church, which we were United Methodist forever and ever and ever,
right?
And still kind of have that flavor about us for sure. With Wesley is kind of the theologian, I guess, that we came out of, and his thoughts and stuff. We're a good mix of a lot of different ones, but he's the main one. And he was from the Anglican Church, the Church of England.
Right.
And so this was an important day for him. And in fact, he would say things like just how much All Saints Day meant to him. And in his journals every day on the 1st of November, he would have some kind of something about today's All Saints Day. And I feel deeply moved today for some reason or something like that. But it's not the same as the saints, Kevin, that we were talking about in the Catholic Church, right?
Yeah. So when I hear the word saints, I think of Catholicism right away. I have friends that are Catholic, and I've always sort of pondered that idea of saints. So All Saints Day, I think, as you said, is generally celebrated November 1st, which is whatever day that is. It doesn't always fall on a Sunday, so we kind of take that as a Sunday to remember those in our, like you said, in our community that have died. And so that feels very familiar to me. But the idea of celebrating, or I might say almost borderline worshiping saints, is a little foreign to me.
Yeah.
And so I was curious about how John Wesley thought about that. But then also, when we hear the word saint, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Patrick.
Well, in the Catholic Church, I mean, it's almost borderline idolatry in some ways. I've always been curious about that because I don't personally see the biblical precedent for that.
So when we think about, and I think about it, you have all the patron saints. So you've got almost, we were talking earlier, there's like a saint for everything. A saint for adopted children, a saint for particular towns, all these kinds of things.
You're thinking of Saint Lidwina, who's the patron saint of ice skaters. That's the one you're thinking of.
It could be.
Wow.
Or Saint Drogo, the patron saint of the unattractive people.
Ooh, isn't there a patron saint of nobody?
Probably.
Or something like that. So there's all of these saints. And Glenn, you were talking a little bit about this in terms of how you even become a saint. There's a big old long process.
Yeah.
Who determines that? Is it
I believe that's with
the Pope or
the Pope.
Okay.
And, there's a committee and they study them and they do a lot of work
research
to
in
research their life and stuff. And to me, pretty much my understanding, and, if you're a Catholic and you're listening to this, you can definitely correct us if we're wrong.
Right.
But to me, it seems like the saints are the people who have lived such a great life on earth that they just go directly to heaven kind of thing. They've earned that, because there's purgatory and different stages of the afterlife in the Catholic belief system and traditions. And so now, of course, our tradition and our theological understanding is not that in our church, but it'll take years, even after their death, for them to be sainted.
Yeah, you're thinking about Saint Balthazar, the patron saint of playing card manufacturers.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, I was thinking.
But Saint Balthazar was one of the three kings that
that's about what
came to the yeah.
Wasn't there Binky?
Yeah.
Binky was one of those. The way I see this too is a lot of times, what's the one? Saint Christopher, right? It's looked at as a way to protect yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that means because they're in some way able to sort of mediate for you to God to give you the protection. And so you do there's prayers to those particular saints, right?
Yeah.
So it does seem to me to be a little bit of
it's almost like
eyebrow raiser.
It's the Christian pantheon. It's the
are we praying to these particular saints instead of
that
Jesus and whatever?
And their tradition, that would be yes.
I don't know. When I see that it's like the different saints of different things, it makes me think about like Greek mythology or Rome, where it's like you have the god of, Ares, the god of war, and, Dionysus, the god of, partying or whatever.
Right.
And so it's like you have like a different like little g god for each different thing. That's almost kind of what it feels like to me, especially when people are like praying to the saints and lighting the candles and things like that. It's like, it's a little borderline.
And I think that's the way John
Polytheistic.
Wesley felt about it too, is that we were talking about this a little bit before. Many of them are fine to be examples of how to live a godly life or how to walk out your faith. And that's why we remember those folks too, is to remember their life and all of the things that they did and contributed. But it's not a substitution for Jesus as our in between us and God.
Yeah, well, John Wesley actually sent in the Articles of Religion that he sent in 1784. I'm looking at this right now. He included a statement against the invocation of saints, like the praying to the saints, because he didn't see the biblical evidence for the practice and discouraged Methodists from participating in that. However, he advises against disregarding them altogether because it is good for us to remember those who have gone before and to be inspired by those who have lived holy and godly lives and to try to emulate some of that in our own lives.
Yeah, to give thanks and to celebrate our faith and those who have helped to form that. And, this list of names of people that we listed today from our church, they have been leaders and Sunday school teachers and confirmation mentors and lay leaders. I mean, they've served on boards. They've done things in our community and stuff. So we definitely, I know for me, there's several on this list that helped to form my faith, and been a part of my journey. So while I will not pray to them, I will pray for them. And I know that in that great cloud of witnesses that Scripture does talk about, that
Hebrews 12,
they are cheering me on, so that is very comforting sometimes to know that they are doing that.
So we say in the Apostles' Creed, there's a communion of the saints. What does that mean? Not everybody all at once.
Yeah, that's a good one. So a part of the communion of saints, those are the ones to the glory gone, I guess, is how it was written. It's the ones that are there.
That's where Saint Balthazar and Saint Lidwina are taking communion up in heaven.
And Binky.
And Binky.
Yeah.
No, I don't think Binky made sainthood.
Well, I think there's this, the way I think about it too is, and we can go on a big old long word study of the word saint, because I think that's pretty interesting in the Bible and in following Greek, etc. But there's this element of saints are people still with us. Mm-hmm. In the New Testament, when Paul talks about this, when he refers to saints, they're people that are still living. Mm-hmm. Like
those are the little s saints, not the big S saints.
And perhaps, that are holy people.
Yeah. Well, I love the way this says here. It says, on All Saints' Day, let us give thanks for both the saints in glory and those on earth who have led us to Jesus. As they have shared the gospel with us, may we add our voices so someone else may hear about the grace and love of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. Tony Campolo once said, and I use this quote a ton, he said, when you get to heaven, it won't hurt to have a kid standing beside you. And, I think in a lot of ways that goes along with this. There are these people who help lead us to Jesus, and they walk with us through that process from beginning to end, before and after. I mean, it's that prevenient, justified, sanctified grace section where we have the church being a part of us. And I would go stand beside some of these people in heaven if I needed to, and I could testify about them. So for me, the saints are those people who help to lead and have led myself and others to Jesus.
And I think that could be, while I wouldn't necessarily strive to be called a saint.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be scary.
Because I don't feel worthy.
I don't want that responsibility.
Exactly.
Well, let's just walk around and start calling it, "Hey, Saint, how you doing?" I say, "Saint, how you doing?"
But it is somebody that set apart as a part of Christ's family and has influence on other people. And I think that's all of us.
Yeah.
We all have that opportunity. And so it's good to remember those that have gone before us and have passed away. But there are many people in our lives that we could point to that have had life-changing impact on us for Christ. And so it's important to remember that is to some extent our call, to be that to anybody that we come across, not to give ourselves accolades or attention, but because it's just an outpouring of the Holy Spirit working in us.
Yeah, that's a great way to say it.
And as gratitude for what Jesus has done for us and the way we've been forgiven time and time and time and time and time again, it should be the natural outgrowth of our relationship with Jesus. And so that's the way I kind of look at it too.
Yeah.
It's good to be reminded that there are people that have done amazing things, some that never get the accolade, but that are meaningful to us, and then some that are.
Yeah.
And there's room for all of that.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. It's good to remember. Sometimes it's hard to remember those that have gone on before us, because maybe they seem like a saint to you and they weren't a saint to me, and that happens in families.
Sure.
And those kinds of things. But I think overall, it is good to be reminded about those who have played roles in our lives and played roles in other people's lives. I mean, even if someone didn't play a role in my life, I like to hear the stories about what they did for other people too. You know? So All Saints Day, there's also an All Souls Day, which is the day after that. We don't typically celebrate, but we lump it all into one day because it starts, I guess, kind of with All Hallows Eve. And is that what it said? All Hallows Eve?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's also called Hallowtide, I think.
Hallowtide. And then we call it Halloween.
Yeah.
So,
and that's where like Day of the Dead and
I think the Dia de los Muertos is, they don't like to conflate that with Halloween. I think for them, that's two separate things.
But it's still kind of the same premise, I think.
The Day of the Dead is Dia de los Muertos is November 1st. It starts the day after. It's like it's more their All Saints Day versus the Halloween, what the Halloween tradition has become as far as dressing up, trick-or-treating, all that kind of stuff. And
so that becomes more of a group of people's way of celebrating kind of the same thing and what they do different. And
the traditions are different.
Traditions,
but it's still a day that they honor the dead and those who
family and that have gone on before. And of course, they have different thoughts about how that relationship can work. And I don't know if you guys watched the movie Coco.
Yeah.
Which was fun, but
that's a documentary, right? That's
not exactly, no. But there's a lot of elements of that tradition in that movie for sure.
Do y'all ever worry about? This sounds like old man talk here, but welcome to Old Man Talk, where we worry about things that we don't really worry about. But do you ever worry about maybe, especially in faith, things like this get so watered down over time that, because we're talking like the Day of the Dead. Well, that becomes another holiday that people like to drink. And,
Right.
So do these things get so watered down that we really kind of lose the true meaning of
We get
the
away
original?
from the deep magic in it.
Yeah. So,
The dark magic.
I said the deep
I
magic.
know, but
but
I get that from the Chronicles of Narnia.
the deep
When
magic.
Aslan says, "Do not cite the deep magic to me." I was there when it was written.
yeah, there you go.
But
I do think there is danger in us not being aware of why we do things we do
yeah,
and just going along with it because it's what we've always done
Yeah.
or what someone else has always done. I would always advocate for being thoughtful and mindful about the reasons we do things. And to be, I guess I would say, just my personal philosophy, a little healthy criticism, to think critically about it, because I do think it's important that you understand what you believe and why.
yeah,
So that if someone were to ask you, why do you think the way you think? You could answer. You could have a discussion, a meaningful discussion, because there's plenty of people that are searching,
yeah,
plenty of people that are questioning. I mean, this is the age of deconstructionism. Everybody's sort of in our social consciousness saying, well, why are you a Christian? That doesn't make sense to me. What value is that for me? And so I think it's important that we consider that. I do not think it's that all traditions are bad or that any traditions are bad necessarily. It's just that let's be mindful about why we do it, because there's likely really good reasons.
yeah, I don't know. Part of me does kind of like the American way of doing things, where basically we just take every holiday and just make it an excuse to get together and eat.
yeah. I mean, it just
Every holiday is just hey,
Potlucks forever. Yeah, I get it.
it just
we
becomes a
changed
celebration.
We changed the dish that we eat, but it's like July 4th, hamburgers and hot dogs. Thanksgiving, it's all turkey. Halloween, candy. But every holiday is just about getting together and eating.
Equal opportunity meat dishes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Candy seems to be a consistent theme in all of our stuff. So
Candy can fit
I guess,
anywhere.
I guess
Yeah.
we like sugar. So
Sorry, I'm just seeing this giant pile of candy.
yeah, we
over
do
here.
have
It's like
some-
in my line of sight.
some big candy around us as we're recording today.
Yes, the theme.
So it's All Saints Sunday coming up this coming Sunday here at Northside, and we'll be celebrating communion as well.
Yeah.
And I believe it is.
It's also when daylight savings time ends.
Yeah, it's World Communion Sunday, I think.
Patrick's
is-
second favorite.
It's my
Sunday.
second favorite Sunday of the year. It's a
Yeah.
toss up between the 6th and the 20th, because with the 6th, I get an extra hour of sleep, which thank God for that.
Yes.
But on the 20th, I get to come to church and eat breakfast. So it's kind of a toss up.
Well, Autumn's about to teach you a valuable lesson,
Oh, yeah?
and that is that babies don't know how to read clocks.
Oh, yes.
Remember that?
Yes.
We got
The
worried
adjustment.
about her the other night because she slept for, no joke, I think it's because she wasn't feeling well, but she slept for 12 hours.
Oh,
Wow.
She
already
fell
a
asleep
teenager?
at like 7 o'clock that night and didn't wake up till 7
That's what I
o'clock
was
in
just
the
going to
morning.
say. She skipped all the intermediate years. She's now a
Yeah.
teenager.
She's just a teenager. She'll be driving next podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, tune in for the next podcast where Autumn will drive.
That'll be scary.
Yeah.
I will not be in the vehicle when that happens.
We encourage you to look up a little bit about All Saints and these, like we were talking today. I think it's good to know about why we do the things we do, and especially when it comes to our Christian beliefs and practices.
Yeah.
And so, this one's a little bit different than like Ash Wednesday, where Ash Wednesday we mark ourselves with,
Right.
and it's kind of like, why did you do that? So it kind of is more of a discussion starter. But I guess it just gets, and especially in our country, massively overshadowed from the Halloween side of things.
Right. Right.
So, that's what's coming on and happening this Sunday. Patrick, you mentioned Thanksgiving breakfast. Evidently, there's a few other things happening soon.
I did mention Thanksgiving breakfast because on the 20th, that's when we get to come to church and eat.
That's right.
Be here at 8:30. Don't want to miss it.
That's cool.
Yeah. So we'll do breakfast at 8:30 in Hope Hall. Serving lines will be in the gym. And then we will all migrate to the sanctuary for a joint worship service at 10 o'clock, which will be led by our children and youth.
Yes.
So that's going to be a really cool Sunday, I think.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Then the following Friday night, December the 2nd, we're going to have a parents' night out up here. So make sure you sign up for that so that we know how much pizza to get. It's for kids 8 weeks to 10 years old. It's $5 a child, but max $10 per family. So bring all the kids.
That's a deal.
That's a deal. Then on December 4th, we'll have Jingle Jam at 6 o'clock. And that'll be a good time of music and games and just a good Christmas celebration with your church family. Ugly Christmas sweaters are highly encouraged, but we'll have hot chocolates and sweets and things like that.
It'd be fun. It's a fun night.
Then the following Sunday, December 11th, we've got our children's Christmas musical, also at 6 o'clock in Hope Hall. It's called The Christmas Express. So December 11th, 6 o'clock. You don't want to miss it. I'm guessing it has something to do with a train.
Well, if you've seen the really cool thing on our website on the events page
for it's awesome.
It is. I'm just sitting looking at it now, and it's like, man, this is awesome.
We're going to give a shout out to Christy Richardson, who put that together.
Cool.
I didn't do anything with it.
Great.
And then the following weekend is the Christmas cantata. So we'll have one performance on Saturday night at 7 o'clock in the sanctuary. And that one's open to the community. I mean, I guess they both technically are, but for those that can't come on a Sunday morning, this is a good time for people that attend or work at other churches or family members that are, any of that kind of stuff. But we highly encourage inviting people from the community to that Saturday night. So tell all your friends. And then there will be another performance Sunday morning on December the 18th at 10 o'clock. So we're going to do one service again at 10 o'clock. That Sunday, there will be Sunday school at 9 o'clock and then a performance of the cantata at 10 o'clock.
Cool.
And then we're coming up into Christmas. So we'll have our Christmas Eve services on December 24th at 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock. The 5 o'clock will be live streamed.
Okay, cool.
And then we will have one joint service again on Christmas. That one will take place in Hope Hall at 10 o'clock in the morning.
And no Sunday school.
And no Sunday school on Christmas. Yeah.
And during the month of Advent, or the season of Advent, we'll be doing on Wednesdays and Sundays a different character from the Characters of Christmas book.
Yeah.
That you can pick up in the office for $10.
Uh-huh. You can also get them at the Welcome Centers.
Yeah, and it's a great time if you haven't been on campus in a while. Great time to come back. I mean, we're going to have Christmas decorations start coming up here soon.
Yep. Yeah, the week after Thanksgiving.
Greenery, and then we've got nativities all over. Just a cool blend of lots of cool nativities that have been collected over the years. That's a tradition that we've done here for a long time. Those are just cool to look at.
Yep. Yeah, it's always fun, and there's some of them that are really interesting.
Yeah, unique, and
they're from all over the world.
Exactly,
they are.
Yeah,
and exactly. You go from a family of ducks doing an activity to some of the most intricate arts and craftsmanship you've ever seen. So pretty cool.
Well, guys, thanks for podcasting with me. And thanks to all of you out there in the world for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you want to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from us, you can follow us on Instagram at Northside Now Podcast. Go to our website, northsidejackson.com, or email us at podcast@northsidejackson.com. We hope to hear from you soon. Once again, this is Patrick.
This is Glenn.
I'm Kevin.
And that's what's happening at Northside Now.
Bye-bye.
I think who you were actually thinking about was St. Bernardino of Siena, who was the patron saint of advertising and public relations.
Finally, you did it. You found the one.
Or maybe it was Saint Erasmus, the patron saint of appendicitis.
Oh, what?